Hey everyone, welcome to another deep dive. And today we're tackling the IELTS speaking test. That part of the exam that can really make or break your score. Now, you're probably familiar with IELTS, the International English Language Testing System. It's kind of a big deal if you're thinking about studying or working in a place where English is the main language, especially if it's not your first language. But we're not just skimming the surface today, we're going deep. We've got this awesome guide called Ninth Script IELTS High Score, and we're dissecting the secrets to boost your score section, specifically for the speaking test.
Yeah, the speaking section can definitely be a bit nerve-wracking for a lot of people.
For sure. It's like you're putting yourself out there, right? So we're going to go beyond those basic tips you might already know, like don't memorize answers. We're digging into the why behind the strategies, uncovering those little nuances that can really make your score soar. Make you stand out from the crowd. The guide starts off strong, calling out what they call parrot talk. Those memorized answers some people try to use. But here's the thing. Examiners aren't looking for a perfectly rehearsed robot, are they?
Definitely not.
They want to see you think on your feet, communicate naturally.
Exactly.
That's way more impressive.
It shows real fluency and adaptability.
Absolutely.
Think about it. In real life, you don't have pre-scripted answers for every situation.
Right, like when you're having debate in university class.
Sure.
Or brainstorming in a meeting at work.
Exactly. Being able to think on your feet, adapt to new information, and respond spontaneously is essential in any setting where communication is key.
And that's exactly what the IELTS speaking test is trying to assess your ability to communicate effectively in real time. It makes so much sense when you put it like that. The guide even gives this funny example.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine you've memorized this whole speech about your hometown, all set to wow the examiner.
Okay.
And then, bam, they ask you about the local bus system.
Oh, no.
You'd be totally thrown off.
Yeah, you wouldn't know what to say.
Exactly. So instead of memorizing speeches, the guide suggests focusing on practicing natural conversations in English, like chat with friends about different topics, even record yourself answering random questions. The more you practice thinking on your feet, the more comfortable you'll be when those unexpected moments pop up.
Exactly. It's all about building that confidence and flexibility in your speaking.
Great advice. Ditch those canned responses. Embrace the beauty of spontaneity. And speaking of spontaneity, that brings us to those curveball questions you might encounter.
Oh, yeah, those are fun.
The guide throws in this zinger. Do you think wigs are fashionable?
Wow, that's a good one.
Right.
Yeah.
How do you handle something like that gracefully, especially if it's about a topic you've never even thought about before?
Well, the key is to stay calm and show off your ability to think critically, even if you're caught off guard.
Makes sense.
Remember, the examiners aren't trying to trick you. They're trying to assess how you process information.
Right.
And how you express yourself in English. So even if you don't have a strong opinion on wigs, you can still engage with the question thoughtfully.
Right. You can say something like, I'm not really into wigs, but I can see how some people might find them stylish.
Exactly.
Or I've never really thought about it before, but I guess it depends on the wig and the person wearing it.
Yeah. Just show that you're thinking about the question and trying to come up with a reasonable response.
The guide actually provides some super helpful phrases for navigating these situations, like, I'm not very familiar with this topic, but I'd guess.
Oh.
Or, I don't know much about this, but I imagine.
Those are great.
It's like you're acknowledging the curveball while still keeping the conversation flowing.
It shows you're not afraid to admit when you don't know something, but you're still willing to engage and try to contribute to the discussion.
It's a valuable skill, being able to handle those unexpected questions.
Absolutely. It goes way beyond the IELTS.
Right.
Think about job interviews, presentations, even just everyday conversations.
Yeah, for sure.
Being able to respond thoughtfully to those unexpected questions can really make you stand out.
I like that, standing out. Okay, so we've talked about avoiding those robotic answers, tackling curveballs, but then there's part 3 of the IELTS speaking test. This is where things get a little more...
intense.
Yeah, intense, I guess you could say. The guy calls it especially challenging. What makes part 3 so different from the other parts of the speaking test?
Well, in part 3, you're expected to go beyond simple descriptions and really dive into deeper analysis and opinions.
Okay.
It's about showing that you can not only speak English, but also think critically in English.
I see.
You'll be asked to discuss more complex issues, weigh different perspectives, and support your viewpoints with clear reasoning.
So it's like taking it up a notch.
Exactly.
The guide gives this great example question. How might technology affect future dining experiences?
Oh, that's an interesting one.
Right, and they even provide a sample response that's super clever in how it's structured. Can you walk us through that?
Sure, they suggest starting by acknowledging the potential benefits of technology, like how it can make ordering and service more efficient. They even bring in real-world examples, like how many restaurants are already using apps for online ordering.
Right, that makes sense.
But then they flip it and say, on the other hand, some people might miss the personal touch of traditional dining.
Oh, I see.
It's a great way to show a balanced perspective.
So you're not just saying technology is great or technology is bad, you're acknowledging both sides of the argument.
Exactly. It shows the examiners that you can think critically and see the nuances within a topic.
And the guide even provides some handy phrases for doing this, like, on the one hand, on the other hand, or, well, some may argue, I believe.
Those are really helpful for structuring your response and making sure you're presenting a well-rounded viewpoint.
It's like having a toolkit for those trickier conversations. So we've covered a lot of ground already. Avoiding those memorized answers, tackling curveballs, even structuring our responses for those challenging Part 3 questions. But there's another crucial element. The guide highlights vocabulary. We all want to sound impressive, but is it all about using the biggest, fanciest words we can find?
Well, not necessarily.
Okay, tell me more.
The guide really stresses that using clear and relevant vocabulary is way more important than trying to cram in fancy words that don't quite fit.
It's about communicating your ideas effectively, not just showing off your vocabulary.
That's it, exactly. Yeah, it's more about choosing the right tool for the job. You know what I mean?
Totally. Makes sense.
Like, the guide says examiners are more interested in seeing if you can communicate effectively than in hearing you just, like, recite a thesaurus.
Yeah, like throwing in big words just for the sake of it.
Right. It's about using language that's both accurate and appropriate for what you're talking about.
So instead of hunting down some obscure synonym, focus on using words that show you really understand the topic.
Exactly. It's about demonstrating a genuine grasp of the subject matter.
Gotcha. So simple and direct trumps complex and confusing.
Pretty much.
The guide actually gives a pretty good example, talking about the environment.
Right.
They say a simple statement like, deforestation is a major issue because it leads to habitat loss, is way clearer
Yeah.
and more effective than saying something convoluted like,
Yeah.
the environment faces insurmountable challenges due to anthropogenic activities.
Right. The first one gets straight to the point. It's concise and shows you understand the issue.
Whereas the second one,
Yeah, it's trying too hard.
it's like it's trying to hide the meaning with all those big words.
Exactly. And it might even end up confusing the listener.
So less is more in that case.
For sure.
The guide also gives some really good examples of strong topic-specific vocabulary.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
So, for example, when you're discussing the environment, they suggest using terms like carbon footprint or renewable energy.
Those are good ones.
Right.
Yeah, they show you've got a good grasp of the subject.
And if you're talking about technology, you could use words like artificial intelligence or data privacy.
Using that kind of vocabulary shows you're not just talking the talk, but you actually walk the walk.
It's like having a secret weapon in your IELTS arsenal.
I like that.
Okay, so we've covered a lot. Avoiding those memorized answers, handling those curveball questions, choosing the right vocabulary. But there's one more thing the guide brings up that can really impact your performance.
Oh, really? What's that?
Mindset.
Ah, yeah. Mindset is huge.
They say a lot of test takers get caught up in this whole striving for perfection thing, which can actually backfire and hurt their score.
That's so true. It's like they get so focused on not making any mistakes that they forget to just communicate naturally.
Right. And communication's all about connecting with the other person.
Exactly. It's not about being perfect.
The guide even says it's totally fine to make a few small mistakes. Just keep going. Don't let it throw you off.
The examiners are human, too.
They get it.
Yeah, they understand that language is fluid.
They're not expecting you to be a robot.
Exactly. They're looking at your overall ability to communicate in English.
They're not going to like dock you points for every little slip up.
Exactly. A few minor errors won't derail your entire score.
That's good to know. I think a lot of people get really stressed about making mistakes.
Yeah, it's natural to feel that way. But try to remember that the examiners aren't out to get you.
Right.
They're just trying to figure out your real English level.
It's a test, but it's also a chance to show off your skills.
Think of them as experienced listeners who are genuinely interested in what you have to say.
Like they want you to do well.
Exactly. They're there to help you demonstrate your best English. So try to relax, focus on communicating naturally, and let your genuine abilities shine through.
So it's not about being perfect. It's about getting your message across.
Exactly. And that's a great takeaway, not just for the IELTS, but for life in general. So true. So we've covered so much today, from ditching those robotic answers to handling curveball questions like a champ, choosing the right vocabulary, and even rocking that confident mindset. What's the big takeaway here for someone who's getting ready to tackle the IELTS speaking test?
I think it all comes down to this. The skills you're building for the IELTS speaking test, they're actually super valuable, even beyond the exam itself.
You're right, like being able to think on your feet, adapt to new situations, express yourself clearly. Those are essential skills for pretty much any area of life.
Exactly. Whether you're navigating a university seminar, participating in a business meeting, even just having a casual conversation with friends, these skills can really help you communicate more effectively.
And build stronger connections.
Absolutely.
So this deep dive has given us a ton of practical tips to help boost your IELTS speaking score.
For sure.
But as the guide emphasizes, practice is key.
Couldn't agree more. The more you practice, the better you'll get. Yeah, the more you practice thinking on your feet, adapting to new situations, expressing yourself clearly and confidently, the more natural it will become.
And remember, the IELTS is just one step in your journey.
Right.
The skills you're developing, they'll continue to benefit you long after you take the test.
Absolutely. So to wrap things up, we want to leave you with this thought. How can you apply these IELTS speaking tips to other areas of your life? Think about those situations where clear and confident communication is really important. Job interviews, presentations, even just everyday conversations. The ability to engage, connect, and express yourself authentically. It's a powerful skill. It can open doors and create opportunities.
It really can. So keep practicing, keep refining those skills, and most importantly, keep believing in yourself.
We're cheering you on every step of the way.